Welcome back. The African Free Trade Agreement signed by the President on July the 7th has been generating reactions across the country. Most recently, federal lawmakers waded into the issue, demanding that the country stand its ground as a giant of Africa to avoid being a dumping ground. Our correspondent Terry Kumi has the rest of the story.
Final legislative day of the week. A motion on Nigeria's membership of the African Continental Free Trade Area is up for debate in the Senate.
Has now opened us up to a market.
The motion, which is sponsored by 45 senators, notes with delight that after long expectations, Nigeria finally signed the agreement to formally become a member of the African Continental Free Trade Area.
This free trade agreement that has just been signed by the President will only have effect regarding those countries outside of ECOWAS, as far as Nigeria is concerned, because we already have a free trade agreement within ECOWAS.
In the body of this motion, he has raised one very important point, which is the fear that Nigeria, as the largest market in Africa, will turn into a dumping ground.
The agreement cuts off tariff on goods moving in and out of the country within Africa. The senators are, however, worried that smaller countries may benefit more from the agreement.
We must not miss the opportunities that are available. So that smaller countries, they were all waiting for Nigeria. They were also all praying for Nigeria to become a member. And I want to believe that they celebrated it when Mr. President signed this particular agreement. They all celebrated, they were all very happy.
Take, for instance, the ECOWAS arrangement. Who are the beneficiaries of that arrangement? Of course, these smaller African countries, because all they want is to move into this country and access whatever they can access, moved in products that are produced from elsewhere into our country.
These fears, according to the senators, are due to the infrastructure deficit in the country.
Countries that will survive this trade agreement must have large manufacturing bases, must have enabling physical and industrial infrastructure. And these are the countries that will benefit from this.
We are being mocked in Africa, the giant of Africa, that cannot even move a container within 1 week into their port, in a distance that is not up to 10 kilometers, 5 kilometers.
All those issues we raise that are in deficit in this country will be the challenge for us in the legislature and the executive arm of government to work together to ensure that we provide infrastructure, that we fix our power.
The Senate also wants the federal government to put in place a robust after-implementation plan of action to fully harness the benefits of the agreement. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
The President has admitted that he's under enormous pressure concerning the composition of his new cabinet. He says the majority of members that made up the last cabinet were unknown to him, as some of the names came from the party. But this time around, he wants to ensure that he picks people he knows personally and can work with. President Buhari mentioned this today when he hosted the leadership of the National Assembly to a dinner at the presidential villa. At the event, the Senate President, Ahmed Lawan, also insisted that he never promised Nigerians that the list of ministerial nominees would be out this week. Senator Lawan emphasized that he used the word could when he spoke about the issue of ministerial list yesterday. Now, besides the Senate President, other leaders of the legislature at the dinner include the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, the Senate Majority Leader, Senator Abdullahi Yahaya, and the House Minority Leader, Mr. Undudi Elumelu. The newly appointed Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Mr. Mele Kyari, is pledging closer ties with the Nigerian Governors Forum to ensure the growth of the economy. When he met with a delegation of the NGF in his office, Mr. Kyari explained that the partnership will also grow renewable energy and generate revenue for the country. A 100-seater, fully equipped Information and Communication Center has been inaugurated at the Ambrose Ali University, Ekpoma, in Edo State. Shell Nigeria Exploration and Production Company, SNEPCO, and the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, donated the center to the school in a brief ceremony. According to the donors, the center is designed to promote ICT education as well as provide an environment conducive to stimulate scholars and researchers' interest.
The Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Administration, Ambrose Ali University, Edo State, represents the Vice-Chancellor in receiving some esteemed guests from Shell Nigeria Exploration and Production Company, SNEPCO, and the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC.
That's what we have today. We stand the test of time.
The new Information and Communication Technology ICT Center, SNEPCO and NNPC, with co-venture partners built for the school, is about to be inaugurated. The speeches at this brief ceremony capture the importance of the project.
Government is taking the lead in national capacity development as seen today, but it is not a task for government alone. There is a role for everybody. It is also in the interest of all stakeholders to invest in national capacity development as this expands the pool of skilled manpower required for national development.
The center is declared ready for use with the ribbon cutting ceremony. A quick tour of the fully furnished facility, equipped with modern IT facilities, including smart boards, licensed software and customization of e-learning portal, follows.
And you can write with the screen, with the marker, and then you can communicate whatever it is you want to communicate to the class.
From the donor and the recipients, fulfillment and high praise are evident.
ICT is growing very fast, so we cannot be left behind. So it is part of our corporate governance, corporate responsibility to make sure that we provide the facility and the enabling environment for them to be able to do that.
This will boost the vision that was already in place here, and so we are really grateful to those who have collaborated with us to make this possible, to give us this edifice and all the accessories and computers that are contained within the building.
The project's brief describes the 100-seater ICT center at the Ambrose Ali University, Edo State, as one meant to prepare more Nigerian graduates for the anticipated technological takeoff in the nation and the world at large.
Now let's go back and listen to what the new Group Managing Director of the NNPC said when he met with the Nigerian Governors Forum today.
This company is owned by over 180 million Nigerians, and they all have a stake in it. And it's our job to deliver value to this country. So this company will have no excuse than to deliver the best value that is possible. NNPC touches the life of Nigerians in very many ways, very many positive ways. What is obvious to Nigerians about NNPC, there are two things: fuel supply and absence of queues in the fuel stations. That's every Nigerian knows about this. And the second part of it, which is very critical, is how much money are we able to deliver from our transactions into the Federation account. These two elements are critical, and they're very important for the well-being of this country.
The Consumer Awareness and Financial Enlightenment Initiative, a non-governmental organization, has been launched in Lagos today. The brainchild of the former president, Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, Mrs. Debola Oshigbogun, is aimed at improving consumer literacy and protecting consumer rights.
Bank chiefs, heads of corporate bodies and representatives of regulatory bodies, including the Central Bank of Nigeria, here for the launch of a consumer-centered company, Consumer Awareness and Financial Enlightenment Initiative.
It gives me a great pleasure to welcome you.
The president of CAFI and former president, Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, waste no time in explaining what the organization is about.
This initiative is a non-governmental organization dedicated to driving financial literacy and consumer awareness in Nigeria. The mutual trust between providers and consumers of goods and services is an important ingredient in the functioning of any society.
The chairman of the event, Mrs. Ibukun Awoshika, and industrialist Obao Tudeko, believe it's a welcome development to breathe life into the relationship between consumers and service providers.
Because customers, consumers will now have rights that they can demand, they can exercise, especially when it is backed by law. If you're one seeking that excellence, then you know that what this will do, it would compel you to seek to deliver the best service and the best products, to seek to be excellent in everything that you do.
We are the junction of interaction of fairness and justice, as well as optimum profitability. I want to unveil this.
Oba Otudeko formally launches CAFI.
We need this kind of awareness. We need to be educated. In that way, banking itself become more competitive, and then charges will be decreased.
We rely on the activities of these consumer advocacy groups, to ensure that we have this reach, because CBN or any other regulatory agency can never do it alone.
CAFI, which has been active for almost 3 years, was instrumental in influencing the CBN Clean Notes policy and is soliciting for financial literacy to be included in the primary school curriculum.
OPEC believes that crude oil will no longer be a darling in the future, and Kayode will be telling us why on Business News.
You first. First Bank.
Well, that's right, Melinda, and you're welcome to Business News. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries expects global demand for its crude oil to drop in 2020, citing a return of a surplus supply from its rivals, including the United States. The 14-member oil cartel, in its latest monthly report released today, says demand for its crude is expected to drop by around 1.34 million barrels per day from 2019 to an average 29.3 next year, while non-OPEC oil supply is projected to grow by 2.4 million barrels per day in the same period. Nigeria, which is one of the top OPEC members, reported a notable output increase of 307,000 barrels, while Saudi Arabia added to rising inventories with an output increase of 112,000 barrels last month. Meanwhile, the International Energy Agency is due to release its own monthly report on Friday. The governor of the central bank, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, is seeking the support of military and paramilitary organizations in reviving the nation's textile industry, which has remained moribund for over 3 decades. At a meeting in Abuja, Mr. Emefiele explains that their support towards boosting the contribution of the sector to the nation's economy will be in the patronage of local textile manufacturers. The domestic stock market records its biggest loss since May the 27th, following heavy sell-offs in major blue-chip stocks on the NSE. Let's get more details from Edidiong Iwang.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. The 3 most capitalized stocks on the NSE, Dangote Cement, MTN Nigeria and Airtel Africa, dragged the market's main index deeper in the red by a 1.86% drop below the 29,000 level. Now, the losses in Thursday's section affected 3 sectors, particularly insurance and consumer goods, which fell by more than 2%. Volume of shares turnover was nearly unchanged compared with the previous session, as 188.43 million shares worth over 3.1 billion naira changed hands in 3,105 transactions. Sovereign Trust Insurance tops a list of 10 gainers, up 4.76%, while AXA Mansard led 16 other losers, down by 10%. The trio of FBN Holdings, Zenith Bank and Axis Bank were the most patronized for the day, while traders attribute the persistent downturn to continued delay on the part of government to formulate a clear economic policy direction needed to stimulate the markets. Well, that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Edidiong Iwang.
Thank you, Edidiong. Outside Nigeria, the Dow Jones today crosses 27,000 for the first time ever, as Wall Street weighs comment from Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell on easier monetary policy. Meanwhile, European indexes fell following calls for fresh stimulus from the European Central Bank by the IMF. Here are some of the figures. Thank you for watching Business News Tonight. I am Kayode Okikiolu. The news at 10 continues with Melinda.
You First. First Bank.
Many thanks, Kayode. Still ahead on the news at 10. UK raises threat to British shipping in Iranian waters to highest level on risk of attack. And that's coming from our London bureau in Around the World in 5. Stay with us.